Welcome to the Crystal Self-Healer Podcast. I'm Carissa Weaver. On this podcast, we blend the magic of crystals with the science of psychology to help you break free from chaos, ditch the overwhelm, and master your emotions so you can have more energy, get more done, and feel better every day. Get ready to unlock your intuition and restore your true power as we cover how you can transform your life using crystals and self-awareness. Are you ready to get started? All right, let's go. All right, my friends, in this episode, we are going to cover what is crystal healing. We've already covered what crystal is best for you. The question people ask me next is, how do I use my crystal? My friends, this is so fun. If you learned anything about me in the last episode, you'll probably predict that when this question is posed, my answer is yes. There are so many fabulous ways you can use your crystals, and we'll get into more of them in later episodes, but today we are going to cover the practice of crystal healing, what it is, how it works, and what you need to perform it. All right, so let's start with what is crystal healing. Traditionally, crystal healing is the laying of crystals on or around the body to facilitate the healthy flow of energy. Sounds great, right? But what does that mean? Our bodies have pathways where our vital energy flows, our subtle energy. The energy we're interested in is not really studied in Western medicine, but in Eastern traditions, this energy can be known as chi or prana. And the energy moves through our bodies through pathways and channels. And depending on the state of those channels, whether they're blocked or open or overactive or underactive, that is the primary focus of crystal healing. Meaning, you will use a crystal that brings about a change so the body and its energy can achieve homeostasis. It's just a fancy science word for balance. So essentially, you want an open and free flow of energy in, out, and through your energy channels. To give an analogy, when we are under pressure with a deadline at work, we will feel stress. This stress will trigger our body to create cortisol, which in normal amounts is good. But too much cortisol, too much of the time, results in health problems, health issues. That puts you out of homeostasis. When you work with crystals, your goal is to work with the crystal that best helps you in creating the homeostasis you and your body crave on an energetic and or emotional level. So fun. All right, so how does crystal healing work? In order to understand how it works, we are going to need to back up a little bit and look at what makes a crystal a crystal. A crystal is called a crystal because of its atomic structure. A crystal is defined as atoms that organize themselves in a particular, predictable, repeating lattice formation. And that is the difference between a rock, a glass, or a crystal. And it's good to note that I am not a persnickety person when it comes to the proper referencing of crystals, rocks, stones, or gemstones. So you're going to hear me interchanging those terms and words freely. Just remember that there are specific differences between rocks, crystals, and gemstones. But we don't need to get into that right now. So how crystal healing works is that because of the atomic structure of crystals and their predictable lattice framework, they hold a vibration that does not vary. And through a process called entrainment, the more malleable energy, which happens to be ours, is influenced and becomes harmonized or matches with the vibration of the crystal that is immalleable, does not change, will not change ever. Just a little disclaimer here. The Crystal Self Healer podcast is not here to treat or provide medical guidance. Anything I cover is for educational and informational purposes only, not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Crystal healing can make a wonderful, supportive, and complementary practice when it is used in conjunction with professional medical services. So, that said, now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about how you can go about doing your own crystal healing. So I mentioned earlier that traditionally crystal healing is the practice of laying crystals on or around the body, and this can be as simple as a single crystal placed on a specific place of the body, for example, rose quartz on the heart. Or you can also have it be more fancy, like multiple crystals in different places, depending on the desired or needed intervention. So my favorite guide for crystal healing happens to be the chakras, because it not only addresses a physical location on the body, but it also provides color and general issues that are associated with each area, making them the quickest way to get to the good stuff of crystal healing without doing lots of study. Now, you can study forever. There's tons of things you can read. We'll go over chakras in a future episode. But if you're wanting to jump off quickly and get into the fun stuff, chakras are a great way. So when you're familiar with the chakras, the 7 locations of the main chakras and the different colors that are associated with each area, you can then use a crystal in the color of the given chakra and the place on your body. And because the crystals, because of their atomic structure, their lattice structure, they are vibrating at the desired vibrational rate associated with those energy centers on your body. So you're then going to benefit from those crystals at those energy points on your body. So fun. So I want to just go over a few mistakes that I see when people are getting into crystal healing that create overwhelm or makes them feel like they're not making progress. And the first one is believing or thinking that you need a big fancy collection of crystals. And that is just not true. Now, I'm like anybody else, and I love having all the fancy crystals. And there are values and benefits to having multiple crystals and multiple types of crystals, but it is absolutely not necessary. And I'll tell you why. There are some crystals, like clear quartz, that can be programmed, and then other crystals, like blue kyanite, which resonate with all energy centers, so you don't need a big collection when you have some other ones that can be a little more either specific or general or all-encompassing. And you can make profound changes in your energy with a single crystal. The important thing to know is that when you select the crystal to work with, that it is going to help you bring about the change you desire. The funny part is that as I'm saying that it's good to pick a crystal that is aligned with the outcome you desire, the second mistake we're making and that we're going to look at is that we're expecting a specific outcome. How funny is that? Those two things are so contradictory, but it is really fun, and I'm going to unravel it so it makes more sense. So when it comes to crystal healing, a lot of what we need to recognize is that some of the healing we need is outside of our level of consciousness in the moment. Our level of awareness or of what is wrong or what needs attending may not be something that we are cognitively aware of. So when we go into a crystal healing and we expect outcome X, or we don't experience it, we're prone to think or believe it's not working. That may not be the case, and I'm going to remind you of the story I shared in the last podcast episode about my experience with rose quartz. You can go back and listen to that story. And so the third thing that we do often is being impatient. And results can be instantaneous. And I love when we get the skies open and the big wah, right? But change can also take a while. And it comes down to how open we are to the healing, how open we are to accepting the immediate change, or whether we're needing to do other layers of healing to get the result we desire. Our healing can be held back or be elusive when we don't have a vibrational match between what we want cognitively or mentally and what we're doing physically. And I'll give an example. If we want to experience a better relationship with our partner and we work with rose quartz for love and compassion, yet we are focused on all the ways that our partner isn't measuring up or doing the things that we want them to do or from them, in that experience, we have a mismatch between how we're experiencing the situation and what we want from the situation. For this reason, we won't see or experience the value of working with the crystals. And that is one of the main reasons I created Crystal Self Healer, because it teaches you not only how to work with your crystals, but also helps you work through all those places where you are creating resistance, blocks, or allowing limitations that you believe subconsciously to prevent you from receiving the energetic match to what you are desiring. It can be hard work, but it is so, so good. Now, for a personal story, I have never been fond of public speaking. I despised giving presentations and speeches all through school. But when it comes to work, you don't always get to tell your boss that you would rather skip the public speaking part of your job. Anyway, fast forward to a presentation I was giving at a networking event about my crystal healing sessions that were available at that time in a local spa. And before the presentation, knowing that I would get a little nervous and, feel all those wonderful feels that come along with nervousness, right? The frog in my throat, the heat in my chest, the sweating, all of it, right? So I grabbed my favorite crystal, which happens to be labradorite, and I made sure that I had it with me during the presentation. So whether it was just on the table in front of me or whether I had it in my hand, it was just around. And not only did the crystal provide me with something to hold and feel while I was talking, which kept me focused on something in my physical environment, which kept me rooted in my body, instead of being lost in the sensation of the sweating and the awareness that the sweating and the heat creeping up your throat and all of those uncomfortable things, which then allow your brain to spin out and go in all these weird and wonderful places. So having something tangible in my hand allowed me to stay physical and present. And then because of the metaphysical properties of labradorite, it is associated with multiple chakras, including the throat chakra, which then allowed it to be supportive of my need to speak clearly during the presentation. So I tell this story because crystal healing gets to be as simple or elaborate as you want it to be. The best way to avoid getting into a state of overwhelm when starting out is to try something, to just get started, to make it simple and intentional. And I think it's important to note that crystals are tools that we use along our journey. And we can do ourselves a big disservice if we give away our power to them and overlook how that power is already ours. We're just not allowing ourselves to embody it as who we are. So, I encourage you to start working with these beautiful tools and get started with your crystal healing practice. And start by selecting the crystal that just feels best for you. Or you could choose a crystal that corresponds with the chakra in the area of the body where you want to bring about change. And simply place it on or near your body. Or hold it in your hands. Place it on your nightstand. Or wear it in jewelry. And then be mindful and aware of what you want, what you're doing, and the results you're receiving and experiencing. And then do the work to close the vibrational gap between where you want to be and where you are. And like I said, sometimes we're able to just accept it, and other times we need a little bit more. Sometimes we're able to just accept it, and other times we need a little more support and time. And if you find yourself feeling blocked or having difficulty being in a vibrational match for the desired outcome, come join me in Crystal Self Healer, and we'll work through all the places where you're experiencing resistance so you can have more energy, get more done, and feel better every day. And in case you'd like to get 20% off your next crystal purchase, click the link in the show notes for the What Crystal is Best for You quiz, and you will unlock a discount on your next crystal purchase. This episode has been brought to you today by Labradorite and Homeostasis. All right, my friends, that wraps up this week's episode. Thank you for joining me here today on the Crystal Self Healer podcast. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, leave a review, and take the What Crystal is Best for You quiz linked in the show notes. Join me again next week as we continue to demystify crystals, how your brain works, and how you can use them so you can have more energy, get more done, and feel better every day.